All right, hello and welcome everyone to our trending topics class for today. My name is Charlotte Shine. I'm one of the Giant Company dietitians. So for the month of March, we have a wonderful class series topic that I think is relevant to everybody. And our theme for this month is Food Connects Us. And I'll be talking a little bit about how the recipe today is meaningful to me and reminds me of my grandmother, which I think we all have recipes and food items that do this for us. And what we're going to be making today is a spicy pimento cheese finger sandwich. I don't know if anybody has had pimentos, but they are super delicious. It can be used in a variety of ways, but I'll be talking a little bit about how that is meaningful to me. And we'll also be talking about pimentos in general as well. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is just how does food connect us, because that is the theme for this month. So first of all, family and tradition. So a lot of us have recipes that are passed down through generations, especially around the holidays, I think. So certain recipes remind us of childhood or loved ones. Also a way that food connects us, and I think a lot of us experienced this during COVID. A lot of us were at home, not all of us, but a lot of us were, our families were together a lot more, but gathering at the table. So this is a wonderful way that brings our family together, brings people together, just to have conversations, especially, how was everybody's day, and just keeping up to date with everyone. Also cultural identity. So there's a lot of food that makes us think about where we came from and connects us to our roots. And this one, especially today's recipe, I think relates to me. So emotional comfort. So specific flavors and meals bring us comfort and healing. And so my specific flavor is pimentos. So my grandmother was from Georgia and lived in Georgia. Probably talked about this in some other classes, but she was lived in Augusta, Georgia. So both of my grandparents, but pimento cheese was one of her favorite things that she used to make. So emotional comfort for me, but also I guess family and tradition. I don't know if she had like an exact recipe. She just kind of whipped it up, but definitely emotional comfort for this pimento cheese. Okay, so what is a pimento? So I have a pimentos in a jar. I don't know if anybody has seen this in store. It's usually kind of like in the bean section, international section, but a pimento is a mild sweet red pepper, kind of with a tangy and slightly smoky flavor. It is easier on the stomach compared to some spicier peppers that are out there, but it is a staple in Southern cuisine. Not only just pimento cheese, but in, we'll discuss that in a little bit, but you can put in a lot of different stuff. So pimentos originated in Spain, and they were imported can't talk today, imported to the United States in probably the late 1800s, early 1900s. But domestic farming began in Georgia kind of around 1910 to 1920, making them more affordable and accessible as well. But pimento cheese sandwich, so I had said that my grandmother lived in Augusta, but the pimento cheese sandwich, I don't know if anybody watches the Masters Golf Tournament, but the sandwich is definitely a popular food item there. They go through a lot of pimento cheese, but also pimentos, and actually I already drained and patted these down, but let me see right here. But pimentos can also be used, they can be cut up using grits. So know that grits is definitely a Southern kind of meal. I mean, I eat it up here too in Pennsylvania, but definitely grits are very popular in Georgia, South Carolina. So deviled eggs, you can put them in, stuffed in olives, and then put in a lot of different types of casseroles. So one nutrition fact, of course, I always like to talk about a nutrition fact. They are high in vitamin C. And which we know is important for our immune health and helps to support it. So that's just a little bit about pimentos. And again, they normally are in the bean section, international section. It just depends on what store that you are at. Okay, so I also want to discuss, since we're making a pimento cheese sandwich for today, talk about some pimento cheese pairings. So again, we're making a sandwich, but there's a lot of different ways to pair pimento cheese. So first off, being a crunchy pairing, which probably a lot of us think about, but crackers. So you can see right here, I put our brand baked wheat snack crackers. So that's a great pairing with pimento cheese. Also toast. Especially like a baguette, and you can toast it and then put the pimento cheese on there. Also pita chips. So this is Stacy's multigrain chip, which does get one guiding star, which you know is that nutritional navigation program. That is in store on certain products, and still has some nutritional benefits with it. But pita chips are a great one, or even pretzels if you want to pair it. Vegetables, of course, is a wonderful pairing for any kind of, dip, cheese, anything like that. But these are our pre-cut celery and carrot sticks. You can see the product at the bottom, which are in the pre-cut vegetable produce area. So celery or carrot sticks is great, cucumber rounds, and bell pepper strips as well. Also with pimento cheese, you can of course put it as a topping on a burger or even just like a turkey sandwich you could. You incorporate it into a grilled cheese, which I've never done, but I think would be super delicious. Or just make little sliders, which we are kind of doing today in terms of like making little finger sandwiches. Also savory, if you like fried green tomatoes, that's a great pairing. We mentioned deviled eggs, incorporate it into grits if you like, stuffed mushrooms, or even you put on top of a taco. So those are just a few of the many ways. But the other one I wanted to mention too is a sweet option. So normally like cheese and some type of fruit go well together, but you can always pair apples or pears with pimento cheese. So we'll be making a really delicious pimento cheese today. So if you don't want to put on a sandwich, if you make this recipe at home, you can pair it with some of these other options, which I think is super delicious. And I also want to mention too, let me go to the recipe slide. So the pimento cheese for today is spicy, but you can always leave out the cayenne if you do not like the spice. Just a side note. So this is the recipe that we'll be making today. And this is on our Savory Recipe magazine website. Very easy to make. This is spicy pimento cheese finger sandwiches. I saw somebody in the chat, they said that they like, this would be a good sandwich if you have tea, which I think is a great idea. But for this recipe, I believe the whole recipe makes about 20 of these little finger sandwiches. So we have 2 jars of sliced pimentos. So this is the jar that I have right here. So before class, I already drained and rinsed these pimentos, and I also patted them dry because they can be a little bit, have a lot of extra juice since they are in a jar. We're also going to be incorporating 2 cups of our shredded extra sharp cheddar cheese, which is super delicious. And again, to give some heat, we're going to add 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground cayenne pepper. And again, you only need about 1/4 of a teaspoon. I would not go any more than that, or it will be very, very hot. Also, I already freshly squeezed a teaspoon of lemon juice, so I have that right here. We're going to be incorporating some light mayonnaise, some Parmesan cheese. I did set out a half package of the cream cheese, just allow it to soften, which looks like it's good to go right now. And so the recipe calls for white country bread, but to add a little more fiber, I decided that I'm going to use 100% whole wheat bread. So for 2 slices is 3 grams of fiber. So that's so helps to give you some fiber, helps you to feel full longer. And if you are gluten-free, you can always put this on top of a rice cake, I think would be a good idea, or a good combo as well. Okay, so that is the recipe today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We will get started on this delicious sandwich. Okay. All right. So the first thing that I'm going to do, so I had mentioned I already rinsed or drained and rinsed the pimento cheeses. The pimentos that were in the jar. So what I'm going to do, let me bring over my bowl right here. I'm just going to put these on my cutting board and just chop them down to be a little bit smaller. So somebody asked in the Q&A if my grandmother used Parmesan cheese, and she actually did, which makes it really delicious and extra cheesy. And also someone asked is how long would the pimento cheese last in the refrigerator? I think it probably would last at least a week, maybe even a little bit longer. I'd be able to store it in there. Those are good questions. So again, I'm just cutting down my pimentos just to be a little bit smaller. And I forgot to ask my poll question. Let me just pull this up real quick. It was just if you have had a pimento before. While I'm cutting this up, let me go ahead and launch this poll. Okay, so while I'm cutting this up, go ahead and answer that. So basically, have you tried a pimento? When I was a lot younger and my grandmother ate pimento cheese, I don't know if this was like maybe I was 4 or 5 years old. I wasn't too much of a fan of pimento, but it definitely, over time, I really loved it. Basically because my grandmother would make it and then she would eat it a lot for snacks. And her favorite was just to incorporate it onto a cracker. Okay, so, all right, so let me go ahead and end the poll and I'll share the results. So it looks like, so a lot of you have, but then there's still a lot that have not. So definitely give this or give pimentos a try. Do you want to make this recipe? Or of course you incorporate it into a lot of other different dishes as well. All right, so thanks everybody for answering that question. Okay. So let me go ahead and put this into my bowl. So I just chopped up this into smaller pieces, the pimento. And then I'll do the same with this. Probably could have even pat dried this even just a little bit more because there's some extra juice. All right. So add that to my bowl. So next I'm just going to add in the other ingredients. So again, we're going to add 2 cups of cheddar cheese. I always love a good sharp cheddar cheese with this pimento or with pimento cheese. Undo. And actually I just realized this package is 2 cups. So let me just go ahead and just add this in. We're also going to add in 1 teaspoon of lemon juice, which I already pre-squeezed. You don't have to purchase fresh lemons, but I always like fresh lemon juice. I think it just gives even more flavor. So I did 1 teaspoon of lemon juice, half of an 8-ounce package of cream cheese. So I'm just using just our brand cream cheese right here. So go ahead and add that. Also going to incorporate a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. Great. Add that. And then 3 tablespoons of light mayonnaise. And after we add the mayonnaise, we're just going to, or actually mayonnaise and cayenne pepper. Just make sure, yes, 3 tablespoons. 1, 2, 3. And again, if you don't like a spicier pimento cheese, you can always just leave out the cayenne pepper. We're going to do 1/4 of a teaspoon, a teaspoon somewhere. There it is. Let me go grab it. So we're doing 1/4. We'll go ahead and mix that up. You just make sure everything in. So sliced pimentos, shredded cheddar, cayenne pepper, lemon juice, mayonnaise, Parmesan cheese, and then cream cheese softened. All right, so I'm just going to make sure that this is stirred well. I probably could have even softened this cream cheese even a little bit more. I put it out for about 30 minutes or so. Make it work. I'm just kind of mixing it around with a fork. And the patting dry of the pimentos definitely is helping this not to be too much liquid in here. See if I can mix this better with a spoon. So for the bread, what I'll do after this is mixed is I'm going to cut off the crust and then cut it into fours. So that will be our make it a finger sandwich. But I think finger sandwiches are always good for tea or any type of, even just like an appetizer. Or if you're watching the Masters golf tournament, you're having a party, good for that as well. All right. Almost done here. Like I said before, with the cream cheese, I probably could have even softened it just a little bit more to make it easier to stir. All right, so I think this is looking good. Let me bring over my bread so you can see where I have my whole wheat bread. So again, recipe calls for white bread, but the whole wheat just gives a little bit more fiber. So I'm going to cut off the crust first. You can put your answer in the chat for this. Does anybody watch the Masters golf tournament? We have a lot that are saying no, but there are a couple yeses. So that's exciting to see. Okay. Just cutting off the crust off of my whole wheat bread. But again, if you are gluten-free, you could always put the pimento cheese on top of a rice cake as well. Or gluten-free bread, different options like that. All right. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to spread on some of this pimento cheese. It doesn't have to be too much. All right. Set that to the side and we'll do one more. So I'm going to try to cut this into fours. I probably don't even need to cut into fours. I'll just do a half. I think will still be a finger sandwich. Just gonna wipe this off. Actually, let me use this. I can probably, no, I think I can cut into fours. Let me put on this plate over here. Do one more. All right. So these are our spicy pimento cheese finger sandwiches. So again, this pimento cheese always brings me emotional comfort, especially reminds me of my grandmother because we used to go to Augusta maybe at least 4 times a year. So this always reminds me of her. So here are our sandwiches. So hopefully for those of you who have not ever used pimentos or have tasted them, definitely give this recipe a shot. I think the cheese spread, because normally a lot of us already like cheese, but the addition of pimentos I think is super delicious. And again, if you don't like a spicier, or you don't like spice in the pimento cheese, you can always leave out the cayenne pepper. All right.